July 27th, and this is The View with Catherine Chang. Today's topics are U.S. consulate in Chengdu closed today and the impact on Taiwan, and what's wrong with the KMT candidate Li Meizhen. First, I want to talk about U.S. consulate in Chengdu closed today and the impact on Taiwan. The U.S. consulate in Chengdu officially closed at 10 a.m. today. The Chinese competent authorities entered through the front gate and took over the premises. Also, the U.S. national flag was lowered at 6 a.m. today. As you can see, this is the flag lowering. As you can see from the photo, there are not so many American officers really exiting the building since they left around earlier 6 a.m. And also the problem is whether this kind of enclosure will the Chinese consulate in Houston and after the U.S. consulate in Chengdu, what are the next steps for the U.S. and China? And what will be the impact on Taiwan? There are several points. A, the U.S. action, the Trump order to close the Chinese consulate in Houston, and there are rumors saying that the reason might related to the vaccine. The senior U.S. State Department officers really emphasized that the Houston consulate had a very special connection with the medical professions. Also, Houston is the first Chinese consulate in the United States, and this is totally a big slap by Trump on China's face. And the purpose is to tell the American people Trump will not be fooled by China. B, the Chinese action. Well, China counterback by closing the U.S. consulate in Chengdu. But why Chengdu? There might be two reasons. One of the reasons is to weaken the U.S. ability to interfere with the Tibetan affairs. And the second is that closing the Chengdu consulate will have the least impact on Sino-U.S. trade relations compared to closing the Shanghai or Guangzhou consulate. C, as to the impact on Taiwan, well, we can see the tensions over Taiwan airspace has risen. And, just recently, yesterday, the U.S. sent military aircraft to both the north and south of Taiwan. In the north, the U.S. military sent a P-8A anti-submarine aircraft, and it was only about 76.48 kilometers away from Fujian and Zhejiang Sea baseline. And this is the closest the U.S. military has ever gotten. In south of Taiwan, a U.S. Navy EP-3E signal reconnaissance plane flew to the coast of Fujian. Second issue I want to talk about. What is wrong with the KMT candidate of Kaohsiung mayoral by-election Li Meizhen? The KMT candidate Li Meizhen's plagiarized thesis issue has turned out to be a facepalm situation because it ended up involving breast and affairs. Li Meizhen's campaign office set up yesterday, and her mother-in-law commented that Li Meizhen is an excellent daughter-in-law, and she emphasized what she said was totally true. If what she said is not true, and her breasts will get smaller. To everybody's surprise, what she said really sparked some discussion. Well, because we should not judge women based on their appearance. But I think her mother-in-law was just kidding. Also, Li Meizhen made an indiscreet remark too. She criticized the DPP's attack on her and said next time they might create rumors like Li Meizhen has an affair. Well, my point is that I don't know why she said that. What I want to say is that the Kaohsiung people really want to hear about the political views of candidates, not about breast or affairs. The KMT's handling of this election has almost become a soap opera. Here are the top stories. Today, we have 4 confirmed cases, which are all imported. They are a woman in her 20s returned from South Africa, mother and son returned from Dubai, and a man in his 60s returned from the United States. In kind of retaliations for the closure of Chinese consulate in Houston, U.S. consulate in Chengdu officially closed today at 10 a.m. The U.S. national flag was low at 6:18 today. Also, we can see that U.S. insignia was removed from July 26. Over the weekend, removal vans were seen coming and going from the front of the consulate. Before the U.S. consulate was closed, the Chinese crowds waved Chinese national flags and took selfies in front of the consulate. On the other hand, U.S. media Foreign Policy published an article, and the title is, "Was China's Houston consulate trying to steal the coronavirus vaccine?" They wrote, Trump administration's officials indicate on Friday that China may have been using its now closed consulate in Houston as a base of operations for industrial espionage as it seeks to be the first to hit the market with a vaccine for the novel coronavirus. Talking about the closure of Houston consulate, we can see the U.S. officials, pull on rear doors of the Chinese consulate in Houston following closure order last Friday. We know that 40 minutes after 4 p.m. eviction deadline passed on July 24th, U.S. federal agents and the law enforcement officers have entered the Chinese consulate along with locksmiths. And also, Chinese embassy in the U.S. published a statement to announce that they will take over the consulate, and also talking about consular jurisdictions on the consulate in Houston. Chinese Foreign Minister spokesperson Hua Chunying fought back on Twitter and said the premises of Chinese Consulate General in Houston are the Chinese government's property. The U.S. break-in is no different from burglary. By the way, I want to mention that there was an extraordinary case about the closure of the Chengdu consulate. It's about the U.S. Consul General's wife, a Taiwanese-born wife, Zhang Zuyi, of U.S. Consul General Jim Molinek's Lin Weijie, was bombarded with angry comments. And Zhang Zuyi, she's also a well-known cookery writer. When she returned to the U.S. with her two sons in February after the U.S. ordered an evacuation due to the coronavirus outbreak in China, the State Department told her she had to remain in the U.S. while her husband worked in China. On Tuesday, Zhang expressed disappointment at having to cancel a planned family reunion, and she received thousands of messages threatening her or accusing her of being a Taiwan independence activist. As tensions rise between the U.S. and China, U.S. draft legislations to relax the restrictions on Taiwan relations. U.S. Representative Tom Tiffany proposed legislation that would require the U.S. Department of State to remove restrictions on the Taiwan-U.S. relationship. A committee in the House expected to deliberate the proposal this week. And what are the restrictions? We can see right now the U.S. officials are not allowed to enter Taiwan representative's office in the U.S. The same applies to Taiwanese officials and U.S. offices. Additionally, displaying the ROC flag is prohibited on U.S. state websites, as well as Taiwan's Twin Oaks estate in Washington. Well, I think these kind of restrictions, they are not reasonable, right? In the end, I want to show you something, something interesting. Taiwanese laundry modeling grandparents in their 80s become famous in Instagram. These are the couple, the grandparents, Zhang Wanji and Xu Xiu'e. Well, they have been operating the laundry in Taichung for the past 70 years. And actually, they put on some of the clothes because they forgot to pick them up. They started to take these photos to remind customers not to forget about their laundry. Well, their Instagram, what they call was Wang Shou as Young, has reached over 441,000 followers around the world. You can see they dress up. That's really cute. And also, I want to say that in the middle is their grandson, and he's the one who bring up this idea, and he's a photographer too. Well, you can see that is really lovely. Oh, that would be the view for today. How is your Monday? I hope everything is fine. And hope you have a great Monday. And we'll be seeing you again tomorrow, right? So I'll be seeing you. This is Catherine. Bye.